Hey everyone, Experian here. Yes, it's been a while. I have not uploaded in quite some time. But I'm trying to be more consistent these days. So what I'm trying to do now is follow a more consistent schedule where I'll be uploading at least once a week. I'll try my best to do that. But to just jump right into it, I've been called to make this particular video for a while. And I think now is the time where I'm really feeling the call to really get it out there as quickly as possible, and that is to talk about my childhood and how I was raised. I know I would have alluded to that in previous videos, and I kept saying, hey, I'll make it. So now I'm here actually making that video. Giving you guys my story about how I was raised, and hopefully I strongly believe that this message will help those who it needs to help. So if you just happen to come across this video by chance or whatever the case may be, there's a strong chance that there is something in here meant for you. Perhaps you can relate, or perhaps it resonates with you in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So I'll jump right in. I didn't really make a structure for this. Normally I usually do that. I'll like write different points and then go along like that, and how to make my videos, and that's how I usually do it. But I haven't even done that. I'm just gonna play it by ear, see what comes out, and yeah. So to start at the beginning, I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses are a very, very particular organization. They're a kind of organization where they keep to themselves, and they ensure, especially people who are born into the organization, as children who are born into the organization, they keep them in that bubble so that they don't really allow them to associate with people outside. At least how I was raised, that's how it was for me. So I was born as a Jehovah's Witness. My two parents were also witnesses, and most of my family were also Jehovah's Witnesses. So that's the sort of environment, religious environment, I would say, I was raised in. So at a very young age, I had a lot of religion and the Bible beat into me, literally. I could quote the Bible like the back of my hand. I knew every scripture. I could quote scripture from Genesis to Revelation. I knew all the books by heart, as in I could name them: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. I could do that until I reached Revelation, right? Very heavily indoctrinated into the Jehovah's Witness teachings as well. So that's my early childhood, and during that time I was a very, very stuck up individual, I'd say, because all those teachings were just pushed at me, and only those teachings, nothing else. Like, I wasn't allowed to do anything other than, how do I put it, praise God, I guess. I wasn't allowed anything to do but that, right? So because of that, it turned me into a very stuck up, strict kind of person, which sort of gave me this aura that people didn't really want to be around me, even at a young age, because it was like, oh, he's so religious, and he's so this, it's best not to hang around him. It's not like he'll be very lenient with you if you do something that he deems wrong, or whatever the case may be. And that's how just my childhood was, until I reached a point in my life about, let's say, I don't know, about 9, 10, about just pre-teens, just about to hit pre-teens, where I started thinking for myself. And that's when I'd say my life changed entirely, like just entirely for the worse. Because the moment I started thinking for myself, asking questions, having my own opinions on things. My parents turned into, to be frank, demons. It was up to now. It's like obviously, well, not obviously. Up to now, I've come to terms with how they have acted and how they have treated me, but it still shocks me. It's very difficult for me to put into words how insane the treatment of me was when I was growing up. Um, that's when they really started heavily abusing me, verbally, physically, emotionally, mentally. And it was very, very, very intense. A lot of the times I tell people the experiences I've had as a child growing up, and a lot of people are like, wow. They either say one, you're very strong, wow, or two, they say, boy, if I were you, I would have ended my life a long time ago. And it's like, that's the kind of response I get when I tell people what I've been through. But anyways, yeah, that's when things started to go downhill pretty fast, because my parents realized that, I wasn't just being a puppet. Because they had their own plans for me, they had their own agenda for me. I was supposed to be some sort of church star boy, the next big church guy, leader in the organization, the next big elder, or whatever the case may be. And they were grooming me to be as such. And when I started to deviate from that, even though they always treated me horribly, to be honest, even when I was a child, because there are stories I've heard from other family members. They were like, boy, we saw how your parents used to treat you when you were just a little toddler, and we were shocked, but we were so scared to say anything, but like, you would get beaten senseless even as a child, like a little baby that doesn't know any better, or a toddler. The way your father would beat you, it heavily bothered people, which I found so interesting, because I can't even remember that. I don't know if it's a case where the abuse was so bad to where my mind just wiped it from my memory, or because I was so young, probably that's why I forgot, but I don't remember these memories at all. That's why it's so interesting when people come to me now, they're like, yes, we saw how you used to be treated, and it was horrible. Again, I don't even know, apparently, but I can't remember. I can only speak for what I can remember. But anyways, yeah, I'll just say that things turned up. The heat was cranked up the moment I started being authentic, and that's when they started attacking me from all sides. It is an experience which I wouldn't wish on my greatest enemy. I really wouldn't. Where, again, as I said, you're attacked mentally, emotionally, physically, every single way possible they can attack you, they will attack you. And that's what I experienced growing up. To put it bluntly, I was in hell. I experienced hell incarnate on earth. I have my own beliefs about a lot of things on this planet, but I do believe that heaven and hell are both on this planet. I do believe that. It's a mindset thing. If you have the mindset that you're always in lack, or life is always miserable, and things are never going to go your way, and everybody is bad and everybody is inherently evil, then, well, I would say yes, you are going to experience exactly that, and you are perpetuating your own hell with your mindset. Or you have the mindset of, everybody is kind, everything is going to work out for me, life is great. Then I would say you're in heaven. You're perpetuating that heavenly lifestyle, and it really does. I mean, hey, if you think talking out of my ass, by all means, you should incorporate that in your own lifestyle and see how it shows up. I guarantee you, if you embody a more positive mindset, your life will change for the better. It's the same thing where it's like you train your brain. You know, whatever you train your brain to notice, it will notice. You know, if you train your brain to notice all the horrible things, well, then you're gonna only notice the horrible things. If you train your brain to see the good things, then, well, you'll only see the good things. You know. But anyways, you know, I believe that both heaven and hell are on this planet. But in that particular situation, I believe like I was in the depths of hell. To be quite honest, I would refer to my parents as demons because there's no other way to explain how they were treating me other than just demonic. Even to this day, it's like I understand why in the grand scheme of things, but when I was younger, I couldn't understand it. It literally did not make sense to me. I could not make sense of it. I would spend days, hours, weeks just trying to figure out what is causing my parents to treat me so horribly for no apparently good reason. You know, the fact that my father would beat me until I had like bloody bruises all over my skin. Sometimes my mother would beat me just because, no reason, just to beat me. You know what I mean? Or they'll give me some lame excuse about, oh, we'll beat you before we go out to make sure you don't do anything wrong. But then if I did something wrong when I was out, I would get beat again if when we went back home. It's a very, very old school Caribbean mindset. A lot of the older generation in the Caribbean have that mindset. It's a very, to be frank, it's cruel. It's a very cruel mindset. Oh, we'll beat you before we go out, just so that it deters you from doing anything you're not supposed to. But if you do something you're not supposed to when you're out, we're gonna beat you again. You know, or sometimes they'll just beat you for no reason. It's a very, again, I can't even explain that. I don't see what is the point of that. I am in a completely different frequency, even since from birth, that I can't explain that. I genuinely don't understand what is the purpose of that, where that came out of, or why people think that's a good idea. And like yeah, bro, I'm sure your kid is gonna love you if you just hurt them for no reason. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But anyways, yes, the physical abuse was intense. You know, the verbal abuse was horrendous. My parents would tell me the most horrible things. You know, call me a whole bunch of names, call me a dog, a mutt who likes to eat his own vomit, call me the devil. You know, just a bunch of names. You know, just hurtful stuff, telling me that I'm the cause of all their problems and I should just kill myself. Yes, my own parents have told me to end my life. You know, I mind you, I'm a kid at this time, teenager. That's the sort of things that they tell me. And yeah, I'll be honest, it got so bad to a point where I mentally couldn't handle it. And I tried to commit suicide multiple times when I was younger. Multiple times. I actually lost count how many times I tried to commit suicide. I'll be honest. I tried suffocating myself. Somehow didn't work, and I couldn't understand why. Of course, now in the future, well, my present, I know why. You know, but back then I couldn't understand why I kept failing. Tried to suffocate myself, I just kept failing. Tried to hang myself, the belt would snap or something like that, or the hook would snap off. I'm like, what is going on? And I kept failing every single time. I tried to overdose on painkillers as well. I was like, okay, surely this works this time, right? Like, there's no way a mistake could happen with this. And you know something, I failed again. But with that one though, with the painkillers though, I will say, because what I did, I basically just scarfed down a whole bunch of them, like a golf ball size, or probably like a tennis ball size amount of them. And I went to bed and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna wake up. And then I did wake up, which I couldn't understand. I was like, what? How am I alive? But I did feel like I was dying, to be fair. Like I woke up feeling death nearby. It's a weird feeling. I don't know how else to explain it. Well, actually, I do. I would liken death as to like a cold lemon. But I felt when I woke up after taking those painkillers, I definitely felt like I was dying. Like I felt like my life force was being drained. I don't know how much years I cut off from myself, but yeah, I felt it that time. But the thing is, I still failed. I was still alive. Um, and I kept trying, kept failing. Even one time I tried to jump off the house because when my parents' house is, it's like it's on a cliff. So I was like, all right, surely I jump off of this. There's no way now that like now this. I was like, all right, there's no way anything goes wrong with this. But funnily enough, when I tried to jump off, again, it felt like the moment I got to the edge to pitch myself off, my feet would like turn into stone. And again, it's something I couldn't understand. It was like my feet were working normally. Like I was literally giving myself a running start. I backed up. I was on the roof, backed up a bit to give myself some, momentum. Ran, literally running to pitch myself off. And the moment I get to the edge, it's like all my momentum just ceased. And my legs would turn into like stone. It felt like something was holding my legs very tightly. I couldn't move. And I'll never forget, I got so frustrated. I got so angry because I didn't understand why I couldn't move. I remember crying tears of rage and sadness and trying to like punch my legs. I was punching them out of anger because I couldn't understand like why are they not moving? Why is my legs not working? Like they're working fine up until I reached the edge. Then they stop working. And I had full intention to jump off. I had full intention, but it's like my body wouldn't listen to me. And of course now, as I'm older, I realized that that was divine. That all of it was divine. The fact that I kept failing every single time, or something kept going wrong, anytime I tried to end my life, I know now because that's because of divine intervention. But I couldn't understand back then what was going on because again, things were so tough that I couldn't handle it. It was just too much for me to handle. So this brings me into the whole religious aspect as well, because I'll be touching on both my parents and the religion as well, because I believe the religion played a very, unfortunately I would say, a huge negative impact as well, unfortunately. Again, as I said, it's a very particular organization. They, to be frank, act like they're better than everybody. It's like we are the ones who know the truth. We are the true religion, and everybody else is false. To be quite frank, I think that's bullshit. And I think anybody in the world who says that, that they are the holiest and they know the truth better than anybody else, that person's full of shit, right? And they're most likely being controlled by a negative, dark entity, because nobody is holier than anybody else. Nobody. We are all specks of dust in the eyes of the divine. There's nobody who is closer to God, closer to Christ, closer to Buddha, whatever, whoever you believe in. Nobody is closer to divinity than anybody else, right? So for anybody to come and proclaim that they know better than everybody else, bunch of nonsense, and especially with the witnesses in particular. There's also the aspect of they don't even really follow. They say they follow the Bible, but the reality is they follow what they call the governing body, which is about 10 or so men at the very top of the organization that basically tell everybody what to do. They say jump, the witnesses say how high. That's the governing body, And I'm like, but where does that? They claim to follow the Bible, but where does that fall into the structure of things? There's God, then there's Christ, then there's, man, and then etc. etc. Where does the governing body fall into that structure? It's not in the Bible, but apparently that's just the witnesses just follow these people. And when you ask why, it's like, oh well, if you ask the governing body, they'll be like, oh well, we have been designated by God, or they say Jehovah, by Jehovah, to do these things. But again, anyone can say that. Literally anybody. A random person on the street could say, hey, God told me to do this and y'all need to listen to me. Anybody can say that. So what? And then it's like, what? So God only speaks to you people and not to everybody else? Like, out of everybody on this entire planet, God only speaks to these 10 or so older men and nobody else? Really? So they just have a special connection, a more special connection to God than everybody else. Yeah, okay. Again, as I said, they've placed themselves as gods, but are trying to make it seem as if oh no, we follow the Bible, we follow God, we follow Jehovah, but that's not true. It's not true at all. Because if that were the case, there would be no such thing as the governing body. But again, that's just my opinion on things. I've been a witness since birth, and to be honest, it ruined a lot of my life. Because again, my parents would use the teachings to attack me as well, isolate me from everybody else who was not a witness. And I grew up a very isolated person. Couldn't hang out with my friends who weren't witnesses because I wasn't allowed to. They would give me some nonsense excuse about, oh, well, we can't trust these people, they are worldly. Again, it's the whole holier than thou attitude, the whole we're better than everybody. And people who don't follow our teachings are bad people. And then it's like, again, they won't outright say bad people. It's like, okay, not outright bad, but not good association, which is so ironic, because these people don't realize with their poor, hypocritical, pompous attitude that they're the bad association, right? To be quite honest, a lot of witnesses remind me of the Pharisees and the scribes, where they claim to be the ones who knew the truth and the most holiest than everybody else. The fact that they felt like they were so close to God, they would wear the scriptures on their forehead like they're better than everybody else. And Jesus looked at these guys like you guys care about the little things that are not even important, but when it comes to things that actually matter, like loving one another, being kind, being humble, being mild, gentle, it's like they don't even think about that. They only care about the little things. So anyways, my childhood was a very, very strict and miserable childhood, to be frank. And again, it's like all my suicide attempts, it's not like the people in the congregation knew. Again, the so-called elders, which apparently are supposed to help, they all knew what I was going through, and not one of them helped me, not a single one. I was abandoned completely and entirely. Matter of fact, when Child Protective Services should have been called for me, because the fact that my father was abusing me, and again, I'm not going to give y'all everything, because if I do, I'm going to be here for like hours. But to give y'all a couple of examples, I'm not a confrontational person at all. I don't like confrontation. But in all my life, I've only fought twice, and both of those times were with my father. Why? For reasons that will shock you, right? Because it's like, what? Y'all fought over that? Really? Yes. The first time me and my father fought was simply because he refused to let me drink water, get a cup of water. Literally, that's why we fought, over water. You know, just came back from a religious service in the hot sun, first thing in the morning. So I come home back home, obviously, and I'm thirsty, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. And without even letting me like relax a bit, he's like, no, I want you to go back outside and do work in the yard. So I'm thinking, wow, I literally just came back from about a good couple of hours in the hot sun having to preach, being forced to, mind you, not that I'm being forced to, I didn't have a choice. Come back home, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm you know, as I said, thirsty, tired, hungry. My father won't even let me get a break. It's like, nope, all right, go right back outside now, and I want you to do a whole bunch of yard work. I'm like, so I just say, okay. I say, okay, no problem. Let me just get something to drink and then I'll go outside. Mr. Man refuses to let me even just get a cup of water. Nope, he wants me to suffer. Go back outside immediately. I don't care how thirsty you are. I don't care how dehydrated you are. I don't care. Go out and do more work. While of course he and the rest of the family gets to sit down, eat, drink, but I don't, right? So, you know, it got to a point where I was so frustrated with him because at that point, you know, this is like, it's like a build-up, because it's like he was constantly doing things like that to me, constantly making my life miserable, you know. No matter what I did, I was always wrong. No matter what I did, I was always never right, you know. And that plays into who my father is, you know, to be quite frank. A very narcissistic, very, very prideful, haughty individual. Who cares about reputation more than anything. So it's like, no matter what I did, I was always wrong. So I got so frustrated because I was like, listen man, I'm trying to be as reasonable as possible, and I couldn't understand. I'm like, he won't even let me drink water. Like that's a normal human right. I'm not even allowed basic human rights. And that's how we ended up fighting, because he stood up in front of the fridge, prevented me from getting anything, got up in my face, and I was like, alright, nah, you know. And then he gave me one box across my face, and it's like when he did that, something clicked or snapped in my head when he did that. You know, it was just like the build-up of all the frustration, and we fought. And the second time we fought again, for something so silly, was simply because he wouldn't respect my privacy. You know, I had my own little room. My bathroom was connected to my room, and you know, I just finished undressing one evening, about to go take a shower, and he just barges into the room, doesn't knock, doesn't announce himself, just barges in. I'm naked, right? I'm undressed, I'm not clothed. So I'm like, hey, I'm obviously very flustered. I'm like, excuse me, don't you see, like, you didn't knock, you didn't announce yourself or anything, please excuse yourself out the room. But for some reason, this guy, you know, my father takes it as a challenge. Like, how dare I tell him what to do? Oh, this is my house, how dare you tell me what to do? I'm like, is this guy crazy? Like, you have to be crazy. I am not clothed, right, at all, and you don't have the common decency to be like, oh, I am so sorry. Even if it was something important, hey, I'm sorry. I'll speak to you behind the door, or let me wait until you're clothed, or whatever, or at least finish taking your shower, and then I'll talk to you about whatever. Nope. He takes me telling him to get out as I'm challenging him. Oh. Okay, sure. So he starts coming closer to me, like how dare you? And again, it was one of those things where, again, it's like a build-up of him just constantly trying to tread on me and humiliate me and mock me, because that's what my father would do as well. Again, here's another example. I'm going to continue this story, but just a side note. My father would come up to me pull out his phone and be like, you see this? This is a brand new iPhone. Just came out. Say, you see this? I could buy you one too if you want to. Matter of fact, I could buy you 5 of these, 10 of these, 20 of these if I wanted to. But I won't. And then he would walk away and laugh in my face. And again, it's like, what kind of person do you have to be to do that to your child? Like, you have to be mentally not all there to try and push down your own child to feel better about yourself. It's like, oh wow, you have more than your child. Congratulations. Do you want a cookie for that? It's just weird behavior, right? But anyways, that's the kind of person he is, just to give you all of that. And again, you'll notice me during the course of this video talk more about him, but my mother plays a part as well. Maybe not as much as him, but she does play a part as well. But anyways, you know, again, he starts coming close to me, and again, it's like something just snapped. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. And I fought with him butt naked right there. But that second fight was a completely different experience to the first one. It's like the second one, my shadow side, I would say my dark side, really came out in that second fight, because it felt more personal. You know, it wasn't like the first one, the first fight I had with him, where he was just being inhumane and he was just being unkind. With the second one, it was like, not only is he being unkind, but he is encroaching on my privacy, my most he is trying to you know, take advantage of me in my most vulnerable state, and that turned me into a beast. I'll be honest, I scared myself when I fought him the second time, because I'll give you a rundown. My father is taller than me, he is bigger than me, he has more muscles than me, he weighs more than me. So by all intents and purposes, he should win. But for some reason, it's like I was playing with a rag doll. I was thrashing the man across the room, playing like putty, like Play-Doh, literally dragging him across the room. I held him up by his throat with one hand, almost broke all of his fingers. That man was a mess when I was done with him. And I scared myself. I was like, whoa, I didn't even know I was capable of that. Especially with somebody who is just physically stronger than me, taller than me, heavier than me. That didn't matter. It did not matter. It did not matter to me. I didn't realize how strong I was, or what I was truly capable of, especially when I was angry or full of adrenaline. But those are only 2 times I ever fought in my life, and both of the times were because, you know, I was pushed to a point where I had no choice but to fight, you know. And there have been situations where, again, I've had to call the police on my parents. You know, I'll never forget one time where they basically locked me in my room, made sure I couldn't get out of my own room, bolted me from the outside, literally put a bolt on the door from the outside so I couldn't get out, and left me in there for about 3 days. No food, no water. And what they would also do is that they would do white room torture on me. Now, if you're not aware of what white room torture is, it's something that I guess most places in the Middle East do it as a sort of torture, where they basically put you in a padded room, a padded white room that has it's silent, it's all white, and it's basically to numb out all your senses. And what basically happens to you is that you start to go insane, pretty much. You'll start to hallucinate. Your mind will start to break down, because your brain is not meant to handle monotony. It's not meant to just be still. Like, your brain has to be stimulated at all times to function properly. And they would attempt to do that similarly to me in my own room. What my father would do, he would take everything that I could use to entertain myself out of my room, remove everything, and then just leave me in there and lock me in there. So I couldn't entertain myself, couldn't read any books, couldn't contact any friends, couldn't do anything. And again, I remember so specifically, it's like I remember going insane. I felt myself going insane. It's a surreal experience. I really cannot describe it. And I would see hallucinations. I started seeing things that I knew, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I know this is not real, but I am seeing something that is not there. Wow. And it's just like, they treated me like I was a dog, like a mutt, like an experiment. And that's what they were doing. They were experimenting on me to see how much they could do to me, to how much it would take to break me. Literally. Because every single time my parents would do something to me that would be unkind, very cruel, I would always try my best to adapt. And that's what I kept doing. Every single time they would do something cruel, I would adapt. I would alchemize it, transmute it. And I didn't even know I was doing that at the young age I was, but I was doing that. And every single time I would overcome it, and they would realize, wait now, this is not affecting them anymore. They would ramp it up. They would come up with a new creative way to be even more cruel, to be even more wicked. And that's where I would call them demons, because it takes a lot of energy to wake up every morning to try and torture somebody. It does. To wake up every single day with the sole intention of making somebody's life miserable. It genuinely takes a lot of energy. Using negative energy like that, a lot is very draining. And I couldn't understand how are my parents having the energy to do this to me every single day. It's like there was no let up, there was no ease. I never got a break. Every day was a new challenge, a new problem, a new argument every single day. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, when does it end? Or anytime I overcome any nastiness they do to me, it's always something new. How is this possible? And it's only again now that I realize that, hey, it's demonic. It's demonic possession. I know for a fact there's a lot of entities attached to them, because it's not normal for a human to do that. They would burn out. You would literally burn out trying to do that, But it was miserable, and it affected my life negatively in ways that, it's sad. It's sad, I don't want to take that away from my younger self. It was very sad and very miserable. And I had no one to help me. The people who claimed to help me, who were supposed to help me, the so-called elders in my religious congregation, didn't help me. All they did was just cover up everything, because they cared more about the reputation of the Jehovah's Witnesses rather than the life of a child. I was getting abused. And mind you, it wasn't just by my parents, by the elders as well. I was blackmailed by elders. Blackmailed. Sometimes some of them would attack me, say the nastiest things to me. And it's just like, wow, okay. So anybody who I had who was supposed to help me, I never got help. And again, as I said, the amount of times the police should have arrested my father, the amount of times Child Protective Services was supposed to be called, they weren't. Everything was hidden, everything was covered up. And I know that's a fact for a lot of other people, especially in Jehovah's Witnesses. There's so many things that they cover up, that they hide, especially when it comes to molestation, child molestation. It's disgusting, to be honest. Very disgusting. But yeah, so long story short, my childhood, not good. It was not pleasant. I have been through hell. And again, this is just a very, very watered down version. What I'm saying now doesn't even compare to like the great pain I would have experienced growing up. And I was just forced to grow up, my parents never really taught me anything. They never took care of me. They never allowed me to grow. And that was another thing where, to be honest, I feel like I try not to think like this, but a lot of times I feel like I'm behind in life, because I knew if I was only supported by my parents, I would be so far in life right now. I'm only 22, but I would be so far in life right now if I had the support of my parents. But anytime I had some sort of talent, some sort of gift, um, they wouldn't nurture me. They would just shut me down. They would try to stamp it out. I used to be really good at football, believe it or not, really good at football. So good, in fact, that my school was like, whoa, you're pretty good. Why don't you play for the team? I wanted to. Parents said, nope, you're not doing it. Absolutely not. We're not going to allow you. I remember, I did so good in my exams where I earned a trip, an overseas trip to another island. And I was so proud. I was like, wow, I worked so hard to get this trip. I go to my parents. Nope, you're not going. I'm like, why? I earned this from my hard work. No, we don't care. Oh, we can't trust. And again, give me some lame excuse about, oh, we can't trust the teachers there, as if the teachers are like, I don't know, horrible people. Like, again, it's like, what? So many things where any talent I had a talent for music, for art. I would go to my father and be like, listen, this is what I'm really passionate about. I'd like to attend a music university, to really further my passion. Nope, he did not care. He was like, nah, I'm not funding that. I don't care. That's not gonna make money. Again, just typical, just sad. And it hurt the most because my father's a professor. He teaches at SGU, St. George's University, Martin Ford. And it hurts so bad because I'm like, look at you. You spent your life building yourself up. And you had the support of your family. And look at where you've reached a point in your life where you're a professor now, working at a prestigious university. And now when your son is following in the same footsteps, trying to make something of his life, you do everything in your power to push him down. How wicked do you have to be to do that? And I view the same as my mother as well. My mother's a very creative person. She loves to paint. She has her own YouTube channel where she releases her videos. And yet, the child who is interested in that stuff, I love to, well, this is what I'm doing right now. I'm creating my own YouTube videos. I have my own YouTube channel. I love to cook. I love the artistry. I love creative stuff. I want to be able to model one day. I want to model one day. I want to act. I think acting is really cool. Everything creative. I'm passionate about. I'm really passionate about photography, all that stuff. And she would rather. She said to me. She said to me herself. She was like, "Yo, when I pass on or whatever, I'm giving everything to my younger sibling, to my younger brother, not to me." I'm like, wow, so you would give all of that stuff to my sibling who doesn't care about any of that stuff. Because my younger brother doesn't care about that. That's just not his thing. He cares more about technology and other stuff like that. I'm like, so you would give it to my younger sibling who literally does not care about that, rather than to me who actually cares about that. Okay. All right. Just everything they would do in their power to just push me down. And again, it's not only the poor attitude of my parents, the fact that my father is just very narcissistic and prideful, and the fact that my mother is, to be quite frank, she's a weak person. I believe she has a heart in her somewhere, but I believe because she's been around my father for so long, she has put herself in a mental prison to where she thinks she can't speak up and she can't do anything, and she literally does that to herself. Anytime my mother is interacting with a situation or dealing with a situation which she doesn't want to deal with, she will just say, oh, I can't, oh, I can't, oh, I don't want to hear it. She'll block her ears, la 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 la, like literally childish. And I would tell her, I said, listen, the more you run away from your problems, the worse things are going to be. My mother is always stressed. She is always stressed. She constantly has health problems. I said, listen, the more you run away from dealing with the things that are supposed to be dealt with, the more you run away from your feelings, your emotions, you are killing yourself. I told her, I said, you are killing yourself. You are running away from dealing with these things. You're running away from speaking up when you know you need to speak up. You just run, and then you tell yourself that you can't. You're programming yourself. I told her, I said, listen, you are programming yourself to be like you can't do anything, like you're useless. And that affects your body. Whatever you tell your mind affects you. And that's exactly what has happened, because she keeps running away and hiding from her problems, and she keeps telling herself that she can't do anything. Again, her body is deteriorating. She's killing herself, and again, she doesn't care. She doesn't care anymore. And she doesn't speak up. Matter of fact, I remember the only time my mother ever spoke up for me was when my father was trying to kill me. That's when she spoke up. But even when she spoke up, it wasn't because she actually cared about me. She said, I remember that moment when my father was bashing my head in, and I remember losing consciousness. Again, I'm just a kid at this time, at this age. Just a kid, bashing my head in. And I remember clearly what she said. She said, Martin, if you damage that child and you send him to hospital, and you go to jail, who's going to take care of me? And who's going to make sure I'm okay? And I was thinking to myself, as I'm losing consciousness, I'm thinking to myself, are you serious? You're watching your own son dying in front of you, and all you could care about is your own well-being. Oh, who's going to look after me? And who's going to take care of me so I can live my lavish lifestyle? Okay. And that's just how life was for me. Because again, a lot of people used to be confused. They would see me again, as I said, my father, he's a professor at SGU. My mother is like, self-employed. They look and they live in a very nice place, a private community. So people always used to look at me and be like, oh, well, you must have a nice life. You must have it nice. Boy, they had no idea. And it's only when I tell people my story, then they realize, okay, yeah, I wouldn't want to trade my life for yours. Yeah, trust me. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I know. Now you realize you wouldn't want to trade your life with mine. Because it was all a facade. It was always the appearance. And again, my father would make it very clear to me that he is the one who has all the money and I have nothing. He would make that very clear to me. And again, like my parents would make it seem as if I was just some sort of spoiled brat. Oh yeah, look at him, he just giving trouble. Oh, you know how kids are. Look at Stefan complaining. Oh, what does he have to complain about? When the reality was, I had plenty. I had everything to complain about. Everything. Being tortured in my own home. Kids used to think I was weird in school because I love school. But the reason why I love school is because I could get away out of the house. That I won't have to be home. I won't have to be tortured. And they'd be like, oh, you're so weird. Oh, you're a weirdo. Nobody really wants to even hang around me. And the thing is, not only that, I couldn't relate to any of the kids. I didn't have any good experiences to tell them. It's like, what kids usually talk about, oh, we went out, I went to my friend's house and we had fun, or what video game are we playing next. I couldn't relate to them. All I had were just horrible experiences. And obviously that doesn't make you popular in school. Matter of fact, it made me even more isolated. I remember trying to connect with the other kids, and again, all I had were just the misery and horror I had at my house. And and I would tell them that, and they would look at me like, "Ooh, like you're weird. You're really weird. We don't want to hang around you. You only have like bad, horrible stuff to say." And again, it's just like, I don't blame myself for that, because again, I was just a kid. I like what else did I didn't know any better, and that's all I had. That's all I had to talk about. But anyways, yeah, that's just how life was. So that was my childhood. And as I said, over the years, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse until, it reached a point where even when I turned 18 and I started working, before that, my father forced me to drop out of college. I'm just gonna leave that there. Forced me to drop out of college. Which again, I found so stupid, because I'm like, he started paying tuition for me, right? And right as I'm about to finish, he just is like, all right, nope, I'm gonna stop paying you tuition. You need to find a part-time job to finish paying all of your tuition. I'm like, how am I gonna do that? Number one, I'm doing a major course, which takes up the entire week from Monday to Friday. Even sometimes I'd have to come to college on Saturdays sometimes, because I was doing IT, information technology. Where am I finding the time to do a part-time job doing a full-time course in college? Not to mention a part-time job that would make enough money for me to pay off my tuition. Hey, it's Stefan from the future. Just had to cut there for a bit. My phone died actually, so I had to go back, recharge it, and then by the time I was finished doing whatever I had to do, I actually didn't even have time to finish the recording. So this is actually me a couple days after finishing the recording so I can post the video. I feel like there are forces trying to go against me so that I don't post the video, but it's making me want to ensure I really get the message out. So anyways, let me continue from where I last left off. Of course, for you, this is just going to be a seamless video, but I couldn't do it. I just couldn't handle doing a full-time college course and doing a part-time job, so I had to drop out. And of course, my father, the sort of pompous, narcissistic attitude that he has, the dean had called me in to ask like, what's going on with you? And my father cooked up, I have to say, I was honestly kind of impressed. Cooked up quite the story. I am Dr. So-and-so, and you know how much I do for this child, and he does not appreciate what I do for him, and look, I've done all of this. And I couldn't believe my ears. I was like, this guy. I was like, but at that point, I was so tired of having to fight every day. I just gave up. I was like, you know what, whatever. It is what it is. I can't do anything about it, so I'm not gonna fight to try and control a situation where I don't have any power. So yep, ended up having to drop out. And around that time, I also would have officially left the witness organization, because again, I was seeing so much wrongdoing, so many things that were wrong in the organization. And mind you, my father is an elder, right? I don't think I mentioned that before, but yeah, he himself is an elder, somebody who people are supposed to rely on in the witness community for help, for spiritual encouragement. But I would witness, obviously, how he would treat me and how he would treat others as well. It bothered my conscience greatly. And then, obviously I'm seeing a lot of other hypocritical things that are extremely wrong, very wrong. It bothered me so much. I was like, listen, this is not my place. This is not for me, A lot of you people, you claim to be holy, you claim to be loving, but you're the farthest thing from it. So that's when I left officially, and once I left, it was almost as I feel like things happen in stages, right? Because as I mentioned before, I was always treated badly even when I was just young growing up. But everything happened in stages. When I was a toddler, I was treated horribly, but at the very least, I didn't know any better. When I started thinking for myself, things got worse because I realized, oh, we can't control him. And then things turned, I'd say, to the ultimate level of torture and pain when I officially left. Because at that point, in my parents' minds, it was almost as if I had given them the green light to be the most cruel people they could possibly be. Because I remember that my own father, he told me when I left, he told me this. He said, I will make sure you suffer. Those were his exact words. I will make sure you suffer. And that is exactly what he did. He did exactly as he said he did, as he said he would do. If I thought life was bad, life got so much worse, you know. And because I had turned 18, you know, again, I had to start working, and he would extort me. He would take 80%, and yes, that is correct, 80% of my salary, and claim it's for upkeep. Mind you, I've already said this before, mind you, he works at a prestigious job, at a prestigious university. To be frank, he does not need my money. Alright, he is set until the day he dies. But apparently he needs my money. It's very important that he gets my money. But he takes 80% of my salary every month and does not take care of me again, because he claims as soon as I turn 18, oh, I'm an adult now, I have to look after myself. So stops taking care of me, stops feeding me, stops everything. And I have to try with the measly 20% that I have to buy groceries, pay for transportation, pay for miscellaneous expenses, pay for my bills, pay for my internet. I couldn't do it. Is it impossible? It was impossible. There's no way I would have been able to do that. Impossible. Literally impossible. It reached a point where I had to beg the neighbors and beg strangers for food and for money just to survive while living with my parents. I tell you, no matter how many times I tell people that, they're like, no, you have to be joking. Like, it sounds so unreal, it sounds so fantastical that it's like, surely that can't be reality. But it was my reality. I was literally begging the neighbors and strangers for food and for money while living with my parents. The treatment of me got so bad that the neighbors even had a running gag where, you know, sometimes the neighbors would see me walking in and out of the community, because my father wouldn't even drive me. He would literally just drive past me straight. He wouldn't drive me anywhere. So sometimes they would stop to give me a ride. They had this running gag. They were like, "You're sure you're not adopted, bro? You're sure you're not you're sure that's your father?" Because they couldn't understand. They were witnessing something they had never seen in their entire life. You know, it was that bad. And it was an experience, to say the least, you know. And of course it leads up to where I'm at now, because, you know, eventually you know, my father was like, all right, well, I don't want you here. I had to put my foot down eventually. I had to put my foot down. I was like, no, you're not taking my money anymore. I don't mind contributing to the family by all means, but you're taking everything from me and you're leaving me with nothing. I can't save, I can't progress in life. You're not helping me whatsoever. You're just taking advantage of me and using me as if I'm some sort of cash cow, you know. And once I put my foot down, he was like, all right, well, then I'm going to kick you out because you're not useful to me. You're not giving me money for free. I'll kick you out. And that's how I ended up in the situation where I'm at today, where I'm on my own. I don't have anybody here but myself. I'm just me. I don't have any other family here on this island. Well, actually I do, but the other family that I do have are also scumbags. So there's that. But yeah, it actually, though, when I left, especially when I left at 18, the religious organization, that's when I was actually able to finally develop a relationship with God that I looked for, surprisingly enough. you know it's only when I left the religion that's when I actually started growing my relationship with God, and I felt my relationship with God growing, and it was great. It was amazing. I had so many spiritual experiences during that time frame. I went on a huge spiritual growth journey. um, it was amazing. I would never trade that up for anything. And it's funny, I had a whole experience, which this is something which I knew I was always going to touch on, so I think I'll touch on it now, where I had an experience where, okay, I was going through my journey once I left, and I reached a point where I felt like I had reached a wall, so to speak. I reached a level to my growth where I was like, okay, what's next? So, I prayed about it. I was like, all right, God, I've done all of this. I've grown so much. Finally be able to have a good relationship with you. I'm so happy, but what's next? Um, and it was so interesting. I got a random message from a witness from Trinidad that I haven't seen in years. I don't even know how he got my number, but he messaged me and he was like, hey man, we miss you, heard that you left, we'd love if you come back. And I took that as a sign. I was like, all right, God, you want me to come back to this place? Okay, no problem. So I went back, spoke with the elders, came back, but things were just the same, if not worse, right? And I couldn't understand it. I was like, God, why did you tell me to come back? Excuse me, right? Things are just as bad, if not worse. Why would you bring me back here? And this time I didn't get an answer. Now, normally when that happens, it usually means he wants me to figure it out on my own, because that's how it is. When I pray, I usually get an answer very quickly. So whenever I don't get an answer, it's usually something where I have to figure it out on my own, right? So I thought about it for weeks. I pondered and I would ponder and I would think and I would meditate. And I'll never forget, there was this one Sunday that whole experience was divine, where I'm sitting in one of their sermons, listening to one of the brothers give their talk, and it's like he's speaking, but I'm hearing a different language. I don't even know if that really makes sense. It's like, okay, let me give an example. It's like I'm hearing him say the car is purple, right? But instead of me hearing the car is purple, I'm hearing the flower is red. You know what I mean? Like he is saying the car is purple, but I'm hearing something completely different. So I was like, what is going on? So I had to look around real quick. I looked around in the audience. I was like, is anybody else experiencing this phenomena, or is it just me? It was just me. Nobody else seemed to react in any kind of way. But it's like I could feel the presence of God and the Holy Spirit actually speaking to me through him, through that guy, the brother who was giving the talk, and he doesn't even know he's being used. And eventually everything clicked, and the reason why I was even brought back was because the first time I had left out of bitterness, out of rage, out of anger, out of sadness. I had seen so much hypocrisy, so much wrongdoing. I was so frustrated. I just left. I didn't even pray about it. I just dipped. I was like, I'm washing my hands completely. I'm never coming back here. Whatever. But the reason why I was brought back was because this time God wanted me to leave, but do it the right way. This time with His approval, right? This time, with me actually consulting Him rather than just, doing it on my own. So that's why, and that's exactly what I did. That I'll never forget. And that was a special day too, because for some reason at the end of that brothers talk, again, I've never seen this happen before in all my years being in that organization. Everybody just got up and gave a standing ovation. I was like, what? Is this like a special talk or something? Or like, I don't know. But yeah, for some reason, everybody just decided to stand up and give a standing ovation. But it felt for me in that moment, it felt as if the angels themselves were clapping for me, like, yes, you finally got it. You understood. You're breaking out of this matrix, this prison. And yep, as soon as that meeting ended, I went straight to the back. I said, hey, I got to speak with you guys, talking about the elders. And I resigned. I said, I'm resigning and I'm leaving. And again, it's funny, even at the very end, my father still was ruthless to the very end. Because even when I had left and I had announced that, he left me stranded at the church. Literally, I'm not even kidding. He left me stranded there. It was a Sunday, by the way, so it's not like there was any buses or anything, and I didn't even have my wallet with me. Left me stranded. He was like, I'm not dropping you back home. You gotta find your way back home. So, I mean, thankfully, one of the guys there heard of the situation. They're like, listen, man, don't worry about it. I'll give you some cash so you can head back home. So I was really happy about that. But, yeah, no, even to the end, it was just like that. And then right when I came back home, it was basically, all right. That's also when I had put my foot down. He was like, well, yep, I'm kicking you out. So, yeah. And that's basically what led up to where I'm at now, as I said, where it's just me trying to take care of myself. Things are uncertain, but I know I am walking with the divine. I know I am heavily protected. I know I am heavily loved, so this is something where I really just wanted to get this out. And again, as I said, I am finishing this recording a couple days after, because I had a whole bunch of technical difficulties. Again, my phone just died, had to recharge it, then I was busy, and then I accidentally deleted. And then what happened, I finished recording the second half after my phone died. Then I ended up accidentally deleting the second half. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. It felt like everything was going wrong. Like I just couldn't get this video out. And I feel like that's just forces trying to fight against me, but I will power through. I am making sure this video gets out because people need to hear this. I know my story is going to help those who need to hear it, because again, I know my experience hasn't just been me alone, despite it very much feeling like me alone experiencing it. I know for a fact there are others who have experienced similar, if not the same, as I have experienced, going through such a horrendous childhood, experiencing so many horrible things, but yet still finding the strength and the courage to power through and to make something of their life, and again, the whole thing with me growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, and the sort of things and the corruption that goes on in that organization that is hidden, it's things that need to be brought to light. As I said, there's so many times where my father should have been in jail, and not just him, a lot of other people too. But again, a lot of things are covered up. It's wrong. It's wrong. That I should be getting reparations for what has been done to me, right? And the fact that this organization tries to cover up these things, I deserve compensation, reparation for these things, and it's something where I want to make sure to get my story out, to bring these things to light, and also to share my experience, my spiritual experience as well, where, despite me going through so much hardship, so much pain and suffering, again, as I said, that I was still able to triumph and succeed. Now, again, as I mentioned, life is still very uncertain for me, and I'm pretty much taking things day by day. But every day, it's like a miracle happens for me. You know what I mean? Every single day, literally, just today, actually, today, before I even started recording this video, I'd say a miracle happened for me. Because things again for me right now, things are very tight. I am practically homeless. Not necessarily homeless, but legally squatting, which is basically the same thing, but at least I have a place to rest my head. But it's like, today I was wondering, what am I gonna do for food? I barely have any cash left to stretch. I'm like, what am I gonna do? And again, believe it or not, I asked a neighbor, I was like, hey, can I just get like $2? I just need $2 to see if I can stretch, what little I have left as long as possible. And they ended up just giving me a 20 instead. And I was like, wow, thank you so much. And then out of nowhere, a friend called and they were like, hey, we want to help you, we want to give you some stuff. And they ended up giving me stuff that I needed, and even gave me cash as well. So it's like out of nowhere. I did not say anything. I didn't message these. They just called me out of the blue, and I was like, wow. I could really see God just taking care of me. The divine, my spiritual team, my guides, my ancestors. I could see them just looking out for me. I feel the support. So, and I know whichever blessings that come my way, I know it's like, yes, of course, I am doing my best to be a kind person, a loving person, so that brings back that good karma for me. But at the same time, it's also the fact that I am so loved that, these blessings come in, which I'm eternally grateful for. I tell you, I always ensure to give thanks. I'm of the belief that God really is infinite and eternal, so and also doesn't have gender. People always like to say him, he, but I like to give thanks in all aspects as well, because if you really think about it, creation is more feminine than it is masculine. Men can't give birth, women can. So it's like I try my best to give respects in all regards. So anytime I give thanks, I'm like, Heavenly Father. I look up to the sky, Heavenly Father. I look down, Divine Mother or Earthly Mother, thank you. Sky Father, Earth Mother, thank you. And yeah, I mean, in all regards, to be honest, life is great for me. Life is good. I feel like things are looking up. Things are finally looking up for me. It's been a very long journey, and I've seen videos talking about this before as well, of especially for people like me, who I would refer to myself as, I guess an earth angel, chosen one. There's many names, 144,000. What else? Life Path 6 in particular. It's like I've seen videos where it's like, yes, you'll go through hardship, or a lot of hardship, but eventually it'll all make sense. Things will come around, and I feel like I can feel that now. I can feel like now things are finally coming around. Things are looking up, because no matter how difficult the decisions were, I still did the right thing. No matter how, because again, I could have easily been so scared that I could have buckled. I could have been like, oh well, even though my parents treat me horribly, at least I'll stay in the religion and I'll stay under their narcissistic control and live I guess I would say somewhat of a good life, because at least I'd have food and I'd have a home, but I wouldn't be authentic, and I wouldn't be free. It wouldn't be me. I would be forced to wear a mask, and I can't do that, no matter what. It's always been a blessing and a curse, I'd say. I have never been able to defy my soul, right? And what I mean by that is that anything that goes against my authentic, genuine self, eventually I will always break apart and I will get back into alignment, into what is my authentic self. I have never been able to misalign myself. And again, as I say, it's like a blessing and a curse. Because it's a blessing, of course, because I know I'm always pretty much on the right path. But it can feel like a curse sometimes, because it makes me like run headfirst into situations where many people would be like, oh my God, this is insane, this is too torturous. Again, the situation where I left the religion, I stopped my father from extorting me, which ended up in him kicking me out. Situations with other people where I put my foot down, where I distanced myself, and it made them look at me as if I was an enemy. A lot of perilous situations have come up for me just staying on my path, right? But at the same time, I don't regret it one bit, because I'm the happiest I've ever been, despite the ups and downs, despite the blessings and the challenges. I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'm the most grateful I've ever been. Because I never gave up on myself. I never abandoned myself, no matter how many times people told me to, just for the sake of even my own survival. Again, I would have friends telling me like, listen man, I know what your parents are doing is wrong, I know the organization is messed up, I know things are like not good, but at least maybe try to conform, so that at least you'll have food to eat, you'll have a place to sleep. I couldn't do it. I couldn't. It bothered me on the inside, in my soul, so deeply. I could not do it. It was just wrong. It's like my soul screamed out, and I couldn't do it, and I never have been able to. So long story short, or should I say short story long, because this is a long video. I hope this video helps. Wherever you're at in life, whatever you're going through, don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your dreams. Do not give up on the things where your gut is telling you what is right and what is wrong. Listen to your intuition. Because I promise you, no matter what happens to you, no matter how tough things get, you will always, and I mean always, I'm staking my life on this. You will always win in the end. Always. As long as you stay true to yourself, as long as you never give up on yourself, you're always going to make it out in the end. Because I'll be honest, as I said, right now, things are uncertain, but as of even right now, things are actually looking up. Yes, things are not too concrete at the moment, but things are really looking up for me, Things are changing for the better, and I couldn't be more grateful. And I know at this point in my life where I have been stripped of everything, I know that any blessing I receive again is from the grace of the divine. And that's what makes it the most solid foundation I could ever ask for. It's not built on my own hands, not built on the hands of anybody else. It's built from the divine. So that when I've finally been able to build up myself, it's like I have a solid foundation. So it really takes trust. It takes faith, a tremendous amount of faith. There'll be days where again you don't know what's gonna happen. You know, you don't days where you're struggling and you don't know where your next meal is gonna come from. You don't know, you know, what is gonna happen next. But trust me, as long as you know that you're staying true to yourself and you're ensuring to really pray about what's going on with you. And when I say pray, I'm not just talking about in Christianity, whoever you believe in, again, God, universe, the source, or whatever, right? Ensure that that communication is there. Your guides, your ancestors, you know. Don't forget yourself, and don't forget that you're loved by others who are unseen. You know, not all the love you experience and all the love you receive is physical. A lot of it is metaphysical as well. You know. But yes, I really hope my story of, you know, what I've gone through in my childhood, what I've experienced, what I've gone through, can help. You know, you're not alone. You're not alone. There are many of us out here, although far and few in between. You know, we're out here, and you're not alone. So, yeah. If you resonate, if you, again, as I said, you know, you relate, feel free to leave a comment. Tell me about your experiences as well, what you've been through, how you've overcome, because, you know, that will help encourage others as well in the comments. You know, those reading the comments, they can see and be like, all right, you know, it'll help them build up themselves and give them encouragement. So, you know, leave a comment, you know, leave a like if you enjoyed the video and if you've reached this far. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I will do my best to be more consistent with the videos. I'm trying to do at least one video a week. So, you know, I'm trying to get that routine in. So hopefully you should see a video uploaded next week as well. So thank you so much for watching. Once again, this is Experion, aka Stefan, and see you in the next one. Peace.